So I want to start by asking if anybody has been, trying to practice in daily life, and if so, how that's been. If there have been any interesting experiences or obstacles or anything like that.
You go back, you get back to your little bit of worriness too.
Oh yeah, tell me more.
No, when you go back, you are there, like, okay, you say, and then not throughout the day, but at least some part of the day, whatever you set aside, think that comes back.
So the part of the day when you don't do the practice?
Not do the practice, but even though we try to do the practice, so somehow something which we set aside as a worry again comes back, at least for some time, teeny bit.
When you do the practice, when you do not do the practice?
We do the practice, but like
the worry bothers you.
Bothers
exactly. Yeah, so exactly.
It's not continuously not setting everything aside the way you are all the time.
Right. You're fighting your worries.
But this will become less, maybe 1 or 2 times. That's all, instead of the whole day. The worry.
The worry is decreasing. You feel
decreased a lot,
but
good. It's not completely gone. Suddenly, you don't know.
Suddenly your mind is taking from you.
Yeah,
exactly. So there's a practice, so that's one big advantage of this practice. It exposes your worries. As you do it, you see, what am I worried about?
Yes, correct.
What am I worried about? That what you're worried about tells you what your attachments are, basically.
I felt more like freedom because when the worry comes up, I'm able to say, that is not mine.
Oh, beautiful. Exactly.
First, it was bothering because that was overtaking. But I think after some time of being in that and then realizing, no, this is not me, it gave me a little more freedom.
Yeah, good. Excellent. Good. Great.
So that's like more time to do stuff instead of getting bogged down with the work.
Right. Okay. Right. Because you're able to recognize the worry was not you. Right.
So then I'm not wasting my time worrying.
Yeah.
And doing what is in my hand right now.
Yeah. Well, yes, exactly. No, that makes sense. Okay. Well, again, I encourage you, try the practice. Try keeping it up, because that's the game. And you'll see, as you try to keep it up continuously, that you'll see what arises that opposes your efforts.
But definitely more insights come as and when you more practice, more insights, more clarity comes.
Yes. The game is continuous alertness all the time, remembering yourself, because it's, as I was just saying a little earlier, when you're normally in life, you don't remember the fact that you're there experiencing it. That fact of you being there. Normally we're just in the experience. We don't remember, oh yeah, I'm here, right? That effectively is what's happening when you do inquiry and surrender. We're reminding ourselves of the fact of our existence, basically, and deepening that fact because even as you say, I'm here, immediately that's resubmerged again, instantly in experience again, and you have to re-remind yourself of that fact, so to say, and then it goes deeper and deeper and deeper. Or like you're looking again, like at something which is like a again, it's like I can't help but think about mirror analogies. Again, it's as if you're looking right now you're in a 360 degree inside the 360 degree sphere. The sphere is like a giant mirror all around, and you're noticing the fact. This is all image. The imagistic quality, the imagistic reflected quality of things. We're constantly, this is a reminder, it's not necessarily by words, by turning our attention away from the objects or turning our attention towards I, which is the same thing really, just slightly different angles, we are noticing the shiny reflected quality of all of this. So with that, let's try
Illuminated by your own self, kind of.
yeah, exactly, right, yeah, exactly. And then we're, you know, we're deepening as you keep doing that, your experience of it becomes subtler and subtler and subtler, because we initially think, okay, this much is the image and then the rest of it is me. But then as you go further, you realize, oh my God, some part of it that was me is also part of the image, actually.
Yeah.
You know? And then more and more and more. It's like, again, it's like an onion where you're stripping the layers away. As you didn't even realize there were those layers until and unless you keep the practice up. So let's try self-inquiry right now for 5 minutes. So again, we are hunting for I. Where is I? Where are you? Right? Where are you? What are you exactly? And to look for that by trying to turn your attention, turn your focus towards the witness, towards the focuser. Where is the focuser? How do you know you exist right now? How do you know you're alive? You somehow know it, right? That knowledge. What is that knowledge? Where is it coming from inside you? Where is it? What is it? What is that feeling? Call it what you want. Try to locate it. All right, so here goes, 5 minutes. All right. Anyone want to share an experience?
So I had this logical or whatever sequential evolution, so first one it was this Q&A, so how do I know that I exist? So my body is breathing, so I know I exist. Then my breath knows I'm breathing, so I exist. Then who's the knower that knows the body and the breath that exist? Then I said the mind knows. Then after that, it said the brain integrates all this information. And then after that, who's the one that knows this? Brain is integrating. So that kind of, that was very fascinating to watch and very peaceful.
Mhm, mhm. Great, great. So, and what I noticed is, in this sequence of ideas, the whole thing is a string of thoughts, right? The whole thing is a series. You might think of it as a series of images. Each of
Yes.
these thoughts is like the next in the sequence of images. And so the images are watched by a watcher, by you, basically. So
It had a quality of being mystical once you know that, or when, you start probing and saying, okay, who knows at the brain, because the
yes,
thoughts are floating like this, it is sequential. And then there was a mystical quality to that observation, just contemplating on who's this person who's, knows that the brain or mind or whoever is aware of all this.
yeah, good. Okay, that's good. That's very good. So it's definitely moving in the right direction. And I just want to say, I mean, just to add this point, right? So again, I mean, and this itself is something which, again, the meaning of it will become clearer and clearer over time as you do the practice. But so it's interesting, right? So when you ask the question, your mind interpreted it as which is a very normal thing, interpreted it as a sort of something to think about. In a way, everything is thought, but what we want to understand it as ultimately is you have what seems to be a direct sense that you exist. Like you just know it somehow. Like when you wake up in the morning, like I'm alive. You don't have to think like, oh, like, I'm breathing, therefore I must be alive, right? You don't go through that logical sequence, right?
Correct.
You just know, yeah, I'm here. That you don't even say those words, but you know it. So that knowledge, which is so seemingly instantaneous, we're trying to like find what that is within our experience, like as if we're tasting something and we're trying to like focus in, like, what exactly is this flavor? Like an odd flavor, like, you're tasting something new and you're like, this reminds me of something. What exactly is this? And you try to really, really focus in on this flavor and you try to really bring it into focus, right? Try to like a microscope, like expand on it, magnify it, right? So similarly, we're trying to like be like, oh yeah, this sense I have of my own existence, like what is this sense exactly? And then as we look for it, we end up bringing other things to mind, various ideas, for example, and then we notice, oh yeah, but I am aware of these ideas. So clearly these ideas are not the actual feeling that is telling me that I exist. So because as long as you're aware of it, it can't be you. And we're looking for that sense of you directly, that direct experiential sense that you already experience or seem to anyway. And so what exactly, as soon as you look for that experience, other things jump to mind and you experience that yourself just now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and you also experience it, right? That it does become quieter. Sorry, go ahead.
No,
And that
same thing.
distinction, sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay,
Thank
you
you.
go ahead first. We'll go to you.
Yeah. So the distinction, and that also the glimpse occurred to me, the academic exercise of asking, who, versus that momentary, just stepping back and just being, the experiential part of it. And so it is, I got a glimpse of that, but the academic part kind of dominates, the experiential part is so transient. So that was another experience I had.
Yeah, exactly. But nevertheless, you touched it. You
Yeah.
did. So that's really good. Go ahead.
They're both thoughts though, right? You
They're
have
both
experience,
thoughts.
but-
They're both thoughts. But the sequence is from, you might say, more kind of like like grosser, so to say, more obvious and more kind of logical, or not necessarily logical, but just sort of like more obvious thoughts to the quiet, and then beyond the quiet.
Yeah.
So as you do the inquiry, as you just did, as you just saw it, it went from that sequence. It went from more kind of discrete thoughts to the quiet. And then if you kept going, which is who's aware of the quiet, right? Then the quiet would deepen, you would have more and more of the quiet, and then you might have flashes even beyond that. So that's basically the way things go.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do ultimately is, through the continuous process of inquiry or surrender, right? Bring as much of our experience into that quiet space as possible. And then keep on being like, well, who's aware of this quiet? Who's aware of this quiet, right? Basically,
Yeah.
that's where we want to go.
Yeah.
Go
So
ahead.
I was also thinking, yeah, who is witnessing things like that? Then all these similar things, like, okay, only my brain is telling me, and whose brain is that?
Mhm, mhm.
And also, okay, and then I feel the existence because I am breathing also, but I don't experience my breathing when I am deep asleep. And who is experiencing that?
Uh-huh.
And then again, then I come out and again I experience, and then what is that? Who is that?
Good.
So when to the, even like my body and mind are separated when I'm very sick, right? My mind is doing a lot of things, lying down, a lot of things are done, but my body is refusing to function anything. So then I was thinking, then I am able to operate without that also. And then like, what is making me do, like,
Yeah.
who is that? Like before,
Yes.
like
So
that.
you're thinking, so, and not wanting to notice, right? You're, which is not wrong. It's just something I want you to notice, right? You're thinking through a lot of this like theory,
Yeah.
right? And which will ultimately bring you, in a way, at least when you're
Yeah.
trying to think about it, you will ultimately be rooted towards the right direction, because the attempt, there's an inner guide is there. So you'll be rooted in the right direction eventually. But that said, when we ask this question again, try to look in your experience. We're trying to notice, you have this experience already, right? It's not about trying to logically understand the theory of the experience. It's simply directly trying to focus, like in the same way, again, if you had like a cut on your finger, and I said, what does that pain feel like? Does it burn? Does it itch? Is it blunt? What doesn't make that sense, that cut would be blunt. But anyway, the point is, if you're experiencing a pain, we don't think about like, oh yeah, well, cellular function has this and that property, and like, it's not about that, right? We just directly feel it,
Yes.
right? We feel it. Something comes to mind, like suddenly what was in the background comes to the
Uh-huh.
foreground.
Mhm.
What is your like, big toe on your left foot feel like? Suddenly you can immediately focus on it, and it takes prominence. Previously, you didn't think about it. Now I've just said those words. Now you're feeling it somehow. So the same way, we are trying to directly feel, where is this feeling of self-awareness?
Yes.
What is that feeling? Okay, let's do it again, 5 more minutes. And again, I'll encourage people, because again, it's more exportable to reality. Try, if you haven't tried it yet, try it with your eyes open. Just because when you go into the real world, and if you're going to try to
More
maintain it,
opportunity.
you're going to be keeping your eyes open most of the time, right? So if you practice it with your eyes open, then you'll be able to bring some of that experience into it. All right, here goes. All right. Anyone want to share how that was done?
I felt that I could experience quietness, but then like I hear every little noises, and then then I wanted to feel it, and but all the noises together become one noise, or
Mhm.
then afterwards you feel that no noise also. That's kind of a thing.
Uh-huh.
You hear everything, and I feel so much of emotion inside coming, everything put together, all the things coming up and choking kind of a feeling. But
Uh-huh.
but you don't, and then you don't hear anything also. You don't hear anything, or first you heard everything, and then everything mumbled up, and you don't hear anything.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
And all the feelings put together, some kind of, and then now no feeling. That's a kind of
So went from kind of feeling the
so
many
much
things,
feeling, many
then
things.
a kind of bunch of stuff, and
The-
feeling, and then sort of it's quieted basically.
Nothing is
Yeah, yeah, that's a sequence exactly. And then to keep going, right? I mean, you stopped obviously, but actually, even when I'm talking, right? Even when I'm talking right now, right? If you can keep the practice going, keep the
Mhm.
practice going. Really, even though I'm saying for 5 minutes, the reality is, if you can simply keep the practice going, why not? Anyone else?
That keeping the practice going. So even, just a reflection, keeping the eyes closed versus eyes open. So the attachment to the silence, shutting off the senses and the attachment to the silence is forcing me to keep my eyes closed. So as you say, so there is this, when you're doing, the practice with everything else going on, the reward of that quietness is not as easy to accomplish. So I
Sure.
acknowledge that there is this attachment to that quietness. And so, yes, that's an observation.
Yeah, no, I mean, that makes complete sense. So, and again, there's nothing wrong with sitting with your eyes closed, not at all. Uh, you know, uh, that's perfectly fine, really. It's just that, yeah, you're right. The reward of the silence is harder to attain when things are seemingly going on in real life. And so, but precisely for that reason, it's all the sweeter, So, because the point is, as long as you have attachments to real life activities and your mind goes into them, is sucked into them, then you're experiencing essentially a lot of identification with disturbance. So if we want that all that time spent in that disturbance to decrease, we actually have to attempt to practice in those circumstances. And the point is, when you practice it sitting down with relatively less to distract you, we can view it as like a little training session in a swimming pool or swimming in the ocean, right? So, if we, I don't know, if there was a wave generator in a swimming pool or something like that, that might be like keeping your eyes open, right? A little bit of mimicking, because when your eyes open, you're exposed to the visual stimuli, right? And you're forced to try to turn inward despite that, So anyway,
Yeah.
it makes sense. Attachment to the silence is basically required, is the truth, because that's the driving motive to keep the practice going deeper and deeper. It's like, the
Right.
mind starts to experience the silence wants more of the silence, practices more, experience more of that. That sweetness is what is like the honey that kind of like leads you forward. So it's
Yeah.
fine. That's understandable.
Yeah.
It's a
By opening,
faster
I feel.
Sorry?
No, I just said it's a more accelerated gratification. So there's still the gratification component involved there, and then so one has to evolve beyond the gratification.
The gratification is fine. The gratification is what leads you onward, that particular kind of gratification, which is the gratification from inner silence. We just want to try to get that gratification all the time, right?
Wow.
Rather than just only when you carve out these periods of sitting, we're trying to transpose that into all the time, right? So that's, and then, but does it make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so
Sorry.
keeping it open means lots of objects, lots of things, a lot of things. Again, this is not me.
Yes.
I am not seeing that. Or more, it's deepening, and then also you don't pay attention to that object anymore. Also, and you are more able to like. Otherwise, you'll be only fighting with your thought only when you're
Right,
closing it.
Right. If you close, right. And you bring up a good point, right? Because when you open your eyes, one way you can look at it is all these objects are reflecting the fact of your existence, right? Everything you're seeing is reminding you you're here, you're the seer, you're here, you're the seer. And so they're kind of like, that's the way you should think about it, right? Anything you experience, whether it's in your perception or your thought or your feeling, any of those things, imagination, or whatever mode of your mind it is, basically, that is in some sense both not you, but also a reminder of you. It reminds you you're watching right now. Remember that you're watching. So and then to turn towards that, right? All these questions are really the same thing. Who is aware of this object? Who's aware of this thought? Who's aware of this? These are all just the same way of remembering that you're here, and in that remembrance, trying to turn your attention towards that fact. So let's switch to surrender now. So again, the instruction with surrender is try to ignore everything. By ignore, what we mean again is ignore is it's really just the flip side of the coin of self-inquiry. So close, right? So close. Ignore means don't let your mind be absorbed into the current experience, whatever that is, whatever you're currently experiencing, the whole totality of that experience, including everything you're seeing, hearing, touching, tasting, smelling, everything that you're feeling, everything that you're thinking. Okay, all of that is your current experience. As a whole, you want to notice, this is my current experience, and withdraw your mind's attention from it so that it doesn't get stuck there, basically. And then you want to repeat that again the next second, and then the next second after that, so that you are continuously in a process of effectively withdrawing and re-withdrawing your attention, quote unquote, back to yourself continuously. And the other part of the instruction I used to give is, not that it really is so applicable to sitting, but don't use your willpower. Don't use your sense of personal effort on anything except the practice, right? So you create this kind of, again, this sort of fortress of alertness from which you're continuously watching and withdrawing your attention. And in that fortress, you're protecting your relaxed will, which is sitting in the sort of non-movement, except with respect to this actual practice itself. So let's try that for 5 minutes. Here goes. All right. You want to talk about how it was?
Yeah, so I want to say that like after a few seconds, I mean after around 30 seconds or so, I naturally became more like in tune with my breathing. Like I could notice my breathing first, and after that, then I think it kind of turned into a kind of a static version of self-inquiry because I wasn't trying to look for the eye, but then I could just feel a bunch of sensations. That's it. That's what-
Right. So yeah, so you bring up an important point, which is what's interesting, you call it a static version of self-inquiry. So you weren't looking for the eye, but what happens is when you notice these sensations as being sensations and you consciously prevent your mind from dwelling in them, basically, you are automatically like moving your mind away from the world of objects. And there's only one place it can go, which is the subject. So, meaning you. So it moves automatically, believe it or not, towards I. Surrender moves your mind automatically towards I, even though you're not necessarily thinking of yourself as looking for yourself in surrender. But still, in the moment of continuously noticing the experiential quality of experience and withdrawing your mind, you move it away. But where is away? Away is towards you, the vigilant noticer, right? The vigilant watcher who is watching. You're moving towards the watcher. When you move away from the watched, there's only one place attention can go, which is towards the watcher, And that is the same direction as inquiry, which is moving towards the watcher, right? Where am I? Where is the watcher? Where is the observer? Where is the one who is self-aware, right? That's the direction of the attention. The attention is seeking that directly in self-inquiry. And surrender is not seeking that directly, but it's backing towards it because it's moving away from whatever this is being experienced towards, therefore, where else could it go? Towards you.
Yeah, and also like every once in a while I would lose myself in thoughts and then come back, and I'd notice it and then come back. And thoughts themselves were also like in a really cunning way. Like I would think that later on Achilles is going to ask me what was your experience, and then my mind would kind of try to frame that would be a thought that I would think of what that experience is.
No, that's one of the fortunate artifacts of this process. Yes.
Like a teacher,
yes.
Teacher is going to ask.
Yes. What's gonna exactly? Yes, I know. Yes. So that's a thought to notice. Absolutely. So the thoughts are very cunning in the way that they the way that they take you. And what happens is you'll see as you do it more in daily life, right? As you do it more and more, the thoughts will get cleverer and cleverer because initially it will be about normal real life matters, but then later it will be thoughts about spirituality, because implicitly there's like, oh yeah, this thought is a bad thought, right? But these thoughts are good thoughts. They're okay to think about, right? So those, if it doesn't catch you at this level, it'll catch you at the next level and the next level after that, right? There's a kind of series of hooks basically. And so the game is notice the hook, and don't be caught in it. Don't be a fish caught in that bait, basically. And if you are caught, release yourself as quickly as possible, because the sweetness of being, right, is just non-willing, right? Conscious non-willing being, like this, like you're just relaxing on this boat, and the boat is just carrying you on the river forward. You don't have to worry about where it's going. You just totally relax, right? Only we are not 100% completely totally relaxed because we are watching. And the only reason for that is because we have such a habit of unrelaxation. So we're trying to unwind that habit.
Yes.
Eventually it will become second nature.
Yeah. And when I come back from the thought and when I kind of come out of each hook of the trap of the thought, it's like I kind of realize, yeah, that is a thought. And it's like a small moment of insight that happens there.
Yes.
unless I'm truly silent, there's no way that I can see a thought as it is, like that.
Yeah, exactly. You could, that's exactly, you could say that precisely. And I'll note as well, right? You know, technically speaking, right? So when we say, for example, right? Okay, a thought took me for whatever, right? 30 seconds or 30 days. Technically speaking, that thought is a thought itself. That thought is itself a thought that if we are following the practice of surrender, we can ignore. There's a thought that says, so I feel like as seekers, you have to kind of like follow kind of two paths simultaneously. One path is, yes, you want to improve your practice. And so you have certain practice related thoughts that in a way are useful at a certain level. But at a deeper level, the idea that you, let's say, were distracted is itself a thought. There's a thought that I was distracted. That thought that I was distracted is technically trying to identify you with the mind. It's saying you're the mind, you're the stream of attention, and you got distracted. Technically speaking, you're not the mind in this way. And so we can just ignore that thought. Ultimately, we can even ignore the thought, by the way, that we're doing this practice. That would be perfect. Do the practice, but ignore the idea that you're doing a practice. Because the truth is, you're actually not doing a practice. This practice is not a practice. This practice is actually just reality. This practice is going on, actually, is the truth. We think it's a practice because of a limited view, because we have a thought-based view of things. But actually, the underlying truth is, this is automatically already the case. So what you can do, which I recommend, is do the practice relentlessly, but ignore the idea that you're doing it.
And that will come with practice.
That's the whole practice. It's just,
Because
these,
right
these
now
are just
it is an
little things to keep in
exercise.
mind. Just these are things to keep in mind.
Yeah,
In the future, at the right time, they'll germinate. But yeah,
right
Yes,
now
yes,
it is an exercise.
right now it's an exercise. Sure, 100%.
And it is such a tiring exercise because they're hunting.
Yes, yeah. Well, you're keeping your mind
And
aware.
it is, yeah,
Yes.
it's the
Yes,
game.
yes. It's a
Because the
game.
mind is still playing, as just now the other speaker said, different levels it is going to just distract us.
Yes. Exactly.
And then we are knowing all these different tools which we can use. Good, when you said willpower, I didn't realize I was using willpower to do these things.
That's right.
So that was another new thing I'm watching out for.
Yes, yeah. Well, the practice itself, again, to be clear,
Is
you can use
willpower.
that is willpower. That is, you must have
In
willpower
that
there.
willpower,
But within that sphere,
yes.
yeah, because basically, what is willpower? Willpower equals the same thing as focusing. When you focus on something, you're effectively using what feels like your willpower. So when we say, even though we have two instructions, ignore and not use willpower, they're really the same thing, just from different sides. Because as soon as you defocus, you can't use your willpower on it.
No.
There's three things that are all the same thing: focusing, willpower, and regarding something as real. Because you would never use your willpower unless you regarded it as real.
Yes.
You would never regard it as real unless you focused on it. And they all three imply each other,
Yes.
basically. So we're trying to get out of all three, basically, with respect to everything, all the time.
So surrender is just surrendering anything, whatever is going to, some thought comes and then whatever comes for the decision, I surrender, or surrendering thought also.
It's surrendering really your experience all the time, everything, right? So you're recognizing, right? Even if there seems to be no thought, right now you're experiencing something, right? That experience, you have to recognize, like you just notice. You don't even have to say the words, just notice this is an experience. You notice it and you refuse, therefore, to dwell in it.
Yeah, okay.
Does that make sense? Yeah. So every moment is like that. Every moment is a new experience. It's like someone is putting pictures in front of you every second. They're saying, look at this interesting picture. And you notice, oh, it's just a picture. And don't get sucked in.
Okay, that's
Basically,
fine.
that process, because this picture sometimes includes thoughts, it includes feelings, it includes perceptions, whatever they include, whatever it is, or whether it seems to include very little or a lot, you just keep on noticing this is a picture. Do not allow your mind to get absorbed into it. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
that's okay, but
Yeah.
that is just like whatever it has to do with surrendering. I mean,
What it has to do with surrendering is when you do not get absorbed in it,
yeah, that's
you do
okay.
not use your effort towards
Oh,
it.
Yeah,
Does that
that's
make
fine.
sense?
Yeah,
So
that is fine.
non-effort is surrender.
Non-effort for the thought or anything.
Non-effort towards anything in the world.
Anything, yeah.
Towards anything in the world.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I thought like, okay, whether good or bad, I am not taking it seriously, or let it go like that, and the things will happen.
Yeah,
kind
so
of a
that's an
thing. That's a
attitude.
surrender.
That's related. No, for
Uh-huh.
sure. That attitude is related to it. But this goes a little bit deeper than that,
Mm.
because it's not when you say I'm not taking it
Not taking it seriously, like
Yeah.
My willpower won't be used, and
yes.
things will happen. People will take care, or I will also take care, something like that, and let go like that, right?
Yes, yes. So that attitude of yeah, people will take care of it, or
Or I will
I'm-
take care of myself.
I'm,
I'll be asked to. I will be forced to do it, something like that. So I'm not worried about.
I think yesterday we talked about just like the thoughts, things will come in your life and it gets done.
it gets done, right? But what I think she's saying, correct me if I'm wrong, is you're thinking of surrender as a series of like attitudes, right? A
Mm.
series of thoughts that everything will go fine, essentially. That's fine. That is a helpful series of thoughts, but
Not everything go fine.
or
Fine,
everything-
or if
or
doesn't
doesn't go
fine,
fine.
it doesn't
I know.
affect me.
I know what you mean. Yes, yes.
Mm.
What I mean to say is the
Mm.
point is you're thinking about the situation and saying whether it goes fine or doesn't go fine, that's okay,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Yes. So that is a relevant thought. That is an
Uh-huh.
important thought. It's a good thought. But we're going even one more step deeper,
okay.
which is even the thing which is happening, we're trying not to even put our attention there in the first
Associate with-
place.
yeah.
Because if it doesn't matter, why are you paying attention to it?
Yeah.
Do you see that?
Yeah.
So it's one step a little bit deeper, rather than those thoughts that you're mentioning are helpful thoughts, but ultimately it's not about having a particular attitude. Any attitude you have, any feeling you have towards a situation is itself a thought also,
Mm.
which we're trying to get out of the net of thoughts
Yeah,
entirely.
yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I know. Like I'm maybe it's connected to everything is unreal. Don't put your willpower there. That's a kind of a same kind of thing. Then
Don't put your willpower there.
Mm.
Don't put your focus there either.
focus there. Yes.
Don't allow your mind to think about to stay in that
Saying
thought,
that that's okay.
right?
Yeah.
even if there's no thought,
Mm.
right? But that the action of taking your attention
Mm.
away from what you are currently experiencing,
Mm.
that is surrender. Taking your attention away
Mm.
from what is currently going on.
Mm.
That's
Okay.
scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like what I'm like, like I thought of surrender is like in Bhagavad Gita,
Yes.
good or bad is like give it to me and then I will take care. Like
Yes.
that.
Yes. Yes.
That's a kind of with the word surrender, you associate that
Yes.
more.
Yes. Yes.
That's
No,
what I
you're
mean.
bringing up a
And
good point.
yeah, and then like any thought, those kind of thoughts only I'm trying to surrender kind of a thing. But other thoughts also just
All thoughts.
all thoughts.
All the
What
thoughts.
I mean is
Yeah.
in the surrender thing, if this is distracting me, and then I am just taking that attitude to get rid of the distraction and
So,
focus mind towards my big focus.
so a thought you're saying is a thought's coming up, and in order to get yourself back to focus, you're
Yeah.
using this idea
Yeah.
of whether it's good or bad,
Yeah,
let it go.
Judging.
yeah,
Yeah. So again, that can be a helpful tool.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's good.
To right, basically tell yourself, right? Okay, worry comes up, and you're like, okay, whether it goes well
Yeah.
or not, I don't care,
Yes.
right? Or I'm sacrificing it to God,
Yeah,
or
But
something
there are
like that.
some other thoughts are not related to that at all.
Yeah, but what I'm suggesting is that even no matter what comes up, even if it is a worry, okay, we can go a step deeper and we can say, okay, the worry arises. I'm just going to directly notice this very worry is a thought, and I'm not going to let my attention dwell there, right? That you don't necessarily need the step of applying another thought to it. You can just notice it. In fact, even if you're uncomfortable, right? So you're worried, you're feeling this discomfort, okay? What you're trying to do is, which is not a bad thing, but I want you to notice there's a slight difference, right? The worry arises and you're saying, okay, the Bhagavad Gita says God will take care of it one way or the other. Whatever will happen, whether it's good or bad, let it go, okay? You're applying another thought to it
Yes, correct.
to reduce the worry.
Mm.
I'm saying there's something even more fundamental we can do,
Mm.
which is the worry arises and we just let it be without touching it.
Mm.
We don't necessarily have to reduce the worry.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You can. It's not saying it's wrong to reduce the worry, but the point is, whether you feel anxious or not, even if you feel upset or uncomfortable about the worry, that very discomfort, we want to notice that discomfort is itself just another feeling.
Yes, correct.
So why we don't want to, because if you do what you're talking about, it's not wrong. It's a step actually in this process. It is part of surrender in a sense. But what you're doing is you are effectively worrying about the worry,
Mm.
right? The worry comes up, you're like, oh, I'm worried about this. Now I have to address it. I have to do something about it. So I have to bring in this attitude that no matter what happens, it'll all be fine. Again, that attitude is helpful actually sometimes. I don't want to say it's not. It is. But we can more directly just say, okay, so what? I'm feeling worried.
Yeah.
So what? That itself, let that be. Let that discomfort be.
The discomfort.
With that,
Let the
I-
discomfort be.
Because we're running away.
We're running from discomfort. We're trying to reduce the discomfort.
Mm.
Let the discomfort be and just
Ah.
don't dwell in it.
Mm,
Okay,
yeah,
so what?
correct.
I'm uncomfortable.
Yes,
So what?
correct. Yeah, it's
Ah.
not a surrender, but don't step up. Yeah, correct.
Yeah, deepening it.
Yes,
Okay?
correct.
Make sense?
I think my observation is that most of the time you try to surrender only when you have difficulties or worries. But I think that, but when we are happy also, when we are able to surrender, that gap of between the happy and worry situations will reduce actually. And then otherwise, like, we will try to see the worry as more and more as a bigger than the happy one. Okay. I think the surrender has to happen both times, like, when we are happy as well as
Yeah.
worries are.
Yes.
Otherwise,
Absolutely.
like, we will only project worry is the only time where we need to surrender. Okay, that equanimity we
Yes,
miss.
Yes, exactly. Surrender is to be happening. You're trying to make it happen every second, which includes obviously all the happy moments.
Yeah.
Every second. Remember, try to process, digest. This is the what we're aiming for. I know it's far away right now for many people, but the aim is every waking moment to withdraw your attention from what's going on. Every waking moment. That includes all the difficult moments and all the good moments. Yes. So we don't want to allow our mind to dwell on the good experiences either, because those are just experiences, So we're trying to get away from all of that continuously. And, when you let, when you let as you put it, when you let yourself dwell on certain experiences because they're okay, they're good, they're happy, they're peaceful, you drop your vigilance, you become vulnerable, and then negative experience is going to take root at some point. That's how the mind works. So by keeping the vigilance up in all thoughts equally, you treat them all equally as not to be dwelled in and not to be efforted towards, then eventually they all start dissolving. Anyone else?
Yeah, so
I think this goes back to the question I asked yesterday about surrendering to whom.
Oh,
I
sorry.
think Gita
get you. So
So the thing is, when you withdraw, when you ignore a thought, the natural question arises: were you surrendering to whom? So what your surrender part is more commentary that you're surrendering to the self. It is not something that is done actively by just ignoring the thought. That is what actually happens, I guess.
yeah, you can say that. You can say you can think of it as surrendering to self if you want, sure. But I mean, really, why are you thinking of it at all, right? It's really, but the point is,
I'm just saying,
point
going
is
back
trying
to
to get-
Gita's question about surrendering to the divine. Because when you say surrender, the word implicitly means you're surrendering something to somebody. So that is more commentary on what is
that
happening.
way. It's,
What you're doing is you're just
you can
ignoring
think of
the
it like that, but the yeah, the point is you're ignoring the thought. You're ignoring everything, really, because everything is thought. Though I say ignoring thought, really, all of this is thought. There's nothing which is not thought, which you're experiencing. It's all thought infused. Everything, even your perception. You look at an apple, that's a thought, actually. So it's all thought. Everything is thought.
But that surrender also is the only initial clutch. I think after some time it doesn't matter. I think that surrender won't come into picture at all. Correct? The surrender maybe initial clutch, like to hold on to, like, make the practice. But I think after some time, like, with the more and more practice, there is nothing to surrender also, because when you are seeing both I mean, every moment when you are not attaching to that moment and seeing as is, there is nothing to surrender also. Correct at that point.
Well, you should, as long as you're experiencing anything, right? And even silence is an experience. The silence should also be recognized as an experience, and you should be trying to withdraw your attention from it. You shouldn't be allowing your mind to just dwell in the silence. You have to bring your attention to the fact that this is silence. This is another thought.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry, you had a question.
Yeah, no, it was more of sharing what this surrender experience felt like. So when the process of surrendering started for me, then immediately I feel this silent, thoughtless awareness.
Mhm.
A thoughtless awareness is sensed.
Mhm, mhm.
So it's sort of, and then it helped me to just look vacantly at everything. Just like sometimes when if I sit on a seashore on a park bench,
Mhm.
I'm just vacant,
Yes.
and I'm just there experiencing the sound of the birds, everything, but not thinking about it. There's a certain vacancy in the whole
Yes.
experience. So then in this case, I find this practice sort of veering into, I'm out of thought. I'm sort of absorbed in this, resting in this particular presence. And so where I get to is this awareness of just being aware. There's nothing else there, that sort of a thing. What is, and then at that point, even this process, there is no, for a moment, there is no surrender, there's nothing, it's just sort of a sensation of, I don't know how, there's nothing there for a bit.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that comes a sense of sacredness. You
of
feel
course.
a sense of sacredness in
Yes.
that thing. And then, of course,
Thoughts
these are
eventually
very
come back
brief.
in. Yes.
So that was sort of, So
Yeah.
any
Comment. So basically, this, like you beautifully put it, sitting on the seashore and that sense of vacancy, that's mental silence. So we don't want to, if we can, be fully absorbed in that, though it is sweet.
So what do we do now?
So what we want to do is, as soon as you notice it, if you can recognize that this is a thought, basically, that even that vacancy is a thought.
That thought has to be awakened.
So I don't need to do anything about it other than recognizing.
You have to
That's it.
recognize that's it. Basically, the point is that recognizing and re-recognizing. When you say recognizing, it's just seeing it as a thought, right? You see, when you notice it, right? The moment of noticing, you're no longer just vacant, right? Immediately you bring, because people think, oh, vacancy, holiness, just relax now. No, you don't want to just relax now. You want to keep the practice going, recognizing
That is
this
also
too.
a thought.
That's also a thought.
So when I'm not there at that point.
Yeah.
Then I have to
Well,
bring myself back. to
That's
the
right.
thought,
Yes, exactly. Yes.
That's
If you're
good.
truly not there,
I'm not there.
then obviously, if it's, what we mean by not there is your mind's absorbed,
Ah.
you see, for that second. It's absorbed in something beautiful, don't get me wrong, but it's absorbed. So that's how all thought works, really, in a way. When a thought comes, there's a split second where you can't do anything about it. It's just there. You have to, at that moment, bring yourself back. When the thought, jitters, basically, then you have a moment, you have an opportunity to exert the practice, basically. But yeah, so as soon as you can, bring yourself back, basically. Don't just lose yourself in that. Like, it's exactly this point when you're on that seashore and you're looking at the beach and your mind is vacant, and then you suddenly like, oh yeah, I'm here again. That like, I'm here again experience. We want to assert that again and again and again. Ruthlessly bring ourselves back, even from beautiful experiences. Wow. All right, with that, we'll conclude.
Ruthlessly.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to add that this practice is also sort of, for me, it's going back into anytime when thoughts come is sort of surrendering it to that presence. Is that? And
Yeah, you can do it that way, sure.
I'm just
Yes.
go back to that presence, and then that whole thing disappears.
Yeah, so you
Right?
can view it as offering up to that presence if you like.
Okay.
Sure. This is just a way of thinking about it.
But that's
which is-
still a thought.
It is still a thought, sure. I mean, again, some of these thoughts can be helpful for a while. But yeah, it is still a thought. But ultimately, the point is, all of these thoughts about what's happening, about the practice, about surrender, about what happens next, they're all just thoughts. And so we're trying to just view them all with a kind of impassive face, as this is all irrelevant to me. All of it's irrelevant.
Except that when I'm aware that I'm aware and absorbed in that awareness of being aware, then there's no thought as such. So that's the part where I have a
See,
problem.
awareness of being aware is a thought, is itself a thought. That's the heart of
I have
self-inquiry
a lot
as
of,
well.
difficulty going past that.
Yeah, of course. So it is because there's profound identification with the witness. That's why. So the witness identification, which is the deepest identification, basically, makes it feel like I am the waking observer, basically. So it doesn't feel like you can go beyond that.
Yeah,
Actually,
it goes to a vacancy again.
Yeah,
When
so
the
do it, so
awareness
keep
is awareness,
recalling
awareness,
yourself.
It's just a vacancy.
That's
then-
fine.
So what do you do?
You notice it again. Again, you notice the vacancy, and again you notice the vacancy, and again you notice the
That's
vacancy.
in between the thought, you need to find the
There's no
space.
thoughts. That's the thing.
There's no
thoughts.
there's
here.
no obvious thoughts,
Oh.
but the very fact of your continuing to experience
Oh.
anything, including vacancy, is a subtle thought.
That's again mind.
That's
Then I
the
have to bring
waking.
in another thought to
Yes.
say that I'm.
Bring it
that's
in.
a subtle thought.
Bring it in. Bring in thought of the practice. We must, because that noticing. You bring yourself back deliberately. You
I
bring
see.
yourself out of
So
that.
I am injecting
deliberately.
that noticing thought.
There's one
because
thought.
That's the thought of the
Yes,
practice.
yes, exactly.
So
The
you're
thought of
saying
the practice is the singular thought. Yes.
So
yes.
even though, aware of being, I mean, I don't know how to express it, but being absorbed in this self-awareness.
Yeah, because the
You
thing is,
bring in a thought to say, hey, I'm absorbed
yes,
in this.
that's right. Because you're really not being absorbed. So the truth is, it's just like with inquiry. It's exactly the same. Because the point is, the rule in inquiry is whatever you're aware of is not you. So when you're saying I'm absorbed in the awareness or absorbed in self-awareness, actually you're not absorbed in that because you're aware of it. You don't think that you're something, so you're aware of it, but you are aware of it. You are aware of it.
Unless brief spots when I'm not even there, and then the fear factor comes in.
Well, but if you're not even there, then how would you know? See, how would you know that it happened? You are there. You are there in a sense.
Yeah. So who fears it? Who fears
Who fears what?
that? When when I'm not there, there is a fear that comes in. So there is a moment when I'm not there and something fears it.
Yeah, I mean, that's right. You could say that's the attachments. But my point is, so I'm not trying to say that's not a how do I put it? I'm not trying to say that's not a holy moment in a sense, but I am trying to say that even if it is a holy moment, we still have to question it further,
Okay.
because even these moments where we seemingly are not, okay, they're still experiences of a sort, because they have a beginning and an ending.
Mm.
Even samadhi,
Yes.
even samadhi is an experience that way, because it has a beginning and ending. So if we want to get to the eternal, we have to look past all things which have beginnings and endings, including experiences of so-called self-disappearance. Those so-called self-disappearance experiences are not perfectly self-disappearance, because if they really were, then there'd be no issue of an ending, basically. So the fact that they end means they're actually very subtle thought. That's the way of thinking about it, basically. They're very, very subtle thought. And so, yeah, they might provoke fear because they are very clear reflection of self. They're not self, but they're very clear reflection of self. So even that is scary to the mind, basically. So it's the right direction. It's the right direction. But ironically, if you want to get more of these vacancy experiences, this is the way to do it. You have to keep them at a distance, basically. Then they increase in duration and they increase in frequency. You know, if you get absorbed in them, then what happens? You let your guard down and they're invaded.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
So it's more like it has to be more continuous. What you see is some kind of little bit of glimpse or something.
Yes. Immediately bring your attention back to the practice. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what you experience. Back to the practice. Back to the practice of being aware of it. It's just a thought. Ignore it. Whatever it is. And eventually you're going to be like, everything will narrow and narrow and narrow, and you're going to be like an elephant dancing on a needle or something like that.
That's what
I never
picture itself is.
I never heard this.
Because you're spinning. The truth is not. It's nothing which doesn't have a basis in time.
Oh, no base.
So we can't allow anything which has a basis in time to be accepted as the goal.
Okay.
You know, basically. Okay. Well,
Okay.
we'll talk tomorrow then.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Today evening we have.
Oh, today evening we have
we
Guru
in,
Vaishnava.
yeah.
That's right.
Guru
Yeah,
Vaishnava in
you said,
Vidyadhams.
Akhilesh, you said that the deepest identification is that of the witness. So can you just say how do you go beyond that identification?
Yeah, you can't directly go beyond it yourself. All you can do is keep on noticing the witnessing, which is that, you know, when you get to silence, you have to keep on trying, and then you can't break that identification yourself. That's grace. So all you can do is keep on putting effort. It's like you're rowing to an island, okay, in a boat. You hit the shore, right? It's as if you can't get out of the boat yourself. Someone has to help you out. All you can do is you keep beating your oars against the shore. You keep your boat in that position, keep on beating, because the waves want to carry you back out to sea. So you keep beating your oars against the shore over and over and over and over again. Eventually someone comes to help you out. That's what happens. So grace has to descend and break that, because there's a problem here, because the one who is trying to escape the witness identification is themselves that very witness. So that they are a thought. So they can't, how do they, escape themselves? They can't. So all you can do is bring everything to this point of silence, and through a continuous process of continuing to ignore, you stay. If you want to stay in the silence, you have to keep moving. That's how it is. So through this process of moving, you stay. It's a dynamic staying, and then eventually what happens is that process weakens the attachments to everything else. When those attachments are sufficiently weak that you will permit yourself to see the real truth, despite the fear that arises, because that fear will have been weakened, then grace will descend. And that that will break the final identification.
Okay, yeah. I think that's a good analogy of
Okay.
the boat and the oar.
And the shore.
Yeah.
Okay, thank
So
you.
is this Sanjay? Okay,
Yes, sir, go ahead.
no, like the speaker. Yes, Sanjay, or what is your name?
Oh, okay, that's okay.
Okay,
Doesn't
bye. Okay, bye.
Your torch is on.
Oh, thank you.